This morning, one of my German Patreon patrons shared with me something that is pretty remarkable and pretty revealing. The new German Minister of Transport is actually advocating against buying any more internal combustion engine vehicles. That's right, the new Transport Minister of Germany. And for those of you interested in investing, check out WeBull, an amazing platform for buying and selling stocks, and now cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, Dogecoin, and others. Open an account and get a free stock valued at up to $200, and fund your account and get another free stock valued at up to $2,300. Check out the link in the description and help the channel at the same time. Hey y'all, it's Dr. Know-It-All. So first I want to completely admit that I don't read German particularly well, so I've had to translate this into English. I will link, of course, the original article in the description, but what I'm going to do is read the Google translation of it, and of course I will put text over the top of that. So anyway, if you're interested in the original German, because there's a few awkward lines, but actually, wow. I mean, it's amazing how good translators are these days. In general, it's pretty darn smooth. There's a couple of slightly awkward things. If you read German, definitely read the original. But I really did want to share this with all of you, so let's check it out. And just FYI, the source for this report is Der Spiegel, which is quite a reputable source of German news. All right, the title is Transport Minister Wissing warns against buying cars with internal combustion engines. Surprisingly, Volker Wissing leaves the line of his party. The FDP minister is now fully committed to battery electric cars and rejects e-fuels. He is also open to more 30-kilometer-per-hour areas in the country. So just to break in quickly, that first sentence is a little bit awkward, but basically there's a new government in Germany and they're making big changes in Germany right now. But even this particular transport minister is kind of moving away from, as far as I understand it, the official party line of his party. So that's an interesting aspect in its own right. And as for the 30-kilometer-per-hour thing, that's actually the second half of the article that I'm not really going to go over, but they're having an argument about making a 30-kilometer-per-hour German-wide, residential area speed limit. That's actually rather slow. I think that equates to about 18 miles an hour, something like that. So anyway, it's slower than the 25 miles an hour in the United States and many other countries, but it would be interesting to see how that goes. That's not really the topic of what I'm talking about today. So continuing on. This evening, Volker Wissing will appear before the members of the Bundestag for the first time as Minister of Transport to explain his plans for the next 4 years. But the FDP politician had already made it public that he did not believe in the future of the internal combustion engine in passenger cars. Quote, "We have to use the various energy sources where they are most efficient. In the car, that's the electric drive," end quote. Wissing told the information service Tagesspiegel Background. This sets Wissing apart from the position that his party has held for a long time, most recently in the federal election campaign. The Liberals spoke out in favor of synthetic fuels, so-called e-fuels, for cars as well. There is also a corresponding passage in the coalition agreement. According to this, cars with combustion engines could have a future in the long term if they are fueled with e-fuels. E-fuels are not the solution for passenger cars, Wissing now said, swinging in particular to the line of the Greens. Quote, "In the foreseeable future, we will not have enough e-fuels to power the cars with combustion engines that are now registered," end quote, said Wissing. The e-fuels would be needed primarily for air transport. At the same time, the transport minister warned consumers not to continue to rely on combustion engines. Quote, "The use of fossil fuels will become more expensive in the future. That's why I can only advise you to switch to CO2 neutral drives," end quote. At the same time, it should be ensured that charging with regenerative electricity remains affordable. Quote, "If you look at the EU regulation, you will see that the decision to go with e-mobility was made a long time ago," end quote, said Wissing. Quote, "If we force the switch, we'll also achieve our climate goals," end quote, he explained. By 2030, 15 million fully electric cars should be on Germany's roads. However, a few things still have to change for this to happen. Wissing also sees it as a task for the German automotive industry to convince people. Quote, "Tesla has succeeded in winning over many buyers with its models, and I would like the same for German car manufacturers," end quote. So goodness, there's a lot to unpack there. It's rather interesting, and this kind of goes along with recent news that Porsche is not going to go with the e-fuel route either, because they did their own studies and discovered that they are environmentally toxic. They produce a lot of nitrous oxide. They're not as carbon neutral as people think they're going to be, et cetera, et cetera. So e-fuels, biodiesel is the most kind of well-known of the e-fuels, but also there are synthetic fuels that can be made by taking energy and combining hydrogen with other things like, creating methane or something like that. But basically methane, I don't think is being considered for the automotive or air transportation industry, but combustible fuels like butane and other things can be created synthetically as opposed to digging up oil out of the ground. So anyway, that was sort of the goal apparently in Germany, but Wissing is breaking with that goal and basically saying like, just forget about combustion engine cars, go electric. We should go all in for electric. And remember, this is Germany. This is the home of Mercedes, of Volkswagen, of BMW, of a lot of premier German internal combustion engine cars. And obviously Volkswagen is a group, right? There's Audi, there's also Porsche, anyway, it's a lot of car companies, and a lot of the industry of Germany is based around internal combustion engine vehicles. So this is a rather huge break. I think it's indicative of the times because you're seeing that the consumer demand for electric vehicles in Germany is going up extremely rapidly. In fact, I just did an episode about that, so you can watch that if you're interested. But anyway, to see a politician come out and basically say, don't buy internal combustion engine vehicles anymore in a large country that has a hefty oil-based automotive industry. So I think it would be different, like Finland, the Prime Minister of Finland, she's awesome. But, but it's a country that doesn't have an awful lot of stake in terms of autos and in terms of the oil business or anything like that. So, they can make statements like that are much more green, and they can say we want a shorter work week and everything. I would love that in the United States. That would be really cool. But anyway, to have a country like Germany, which is very conservative, very industrial, very all about creating these beautiful, work of art, internal combustion engine vehicles, for this person to come out and say we shouldn't buy those anymore, and that Tesla, an American car company, is leading the way, and that German auto manufacturers had better get on board and make the change quickly. It's kind of remarkable. I'm a little bit blown away. When my Patreon patron sent this to me this morning, I had to read it over a couple of times to really believe what I was reading. I was like, nah, the translation must not be right. So I went back and slogged through the original German, and I was like, nope, I think that's exactly what it's saying. So it's pretty incredible. And as far as I understand it from the news article, the party, the FDP, did not run on an extremely green platform, right? Even in the United States, there's the Green Party. They get 1% of the vote or something like that. But so they didn't run on this platform. They didn't run on make the world electric and get rid of internal combustion engines. So he's making a major change in the playbook based on what they had run on, the platform that the party had run on up to the elections that happened. And of course, this is all my outside understanding of German politics, so, take it with a little bit of a grain of salt. But I think this is also a really interesting counterpoint to the Berlin-Brandenburg delays to the Giga Berlin factory that have been going on. It's interesting that even though there are environmental groups, which is highly questionable because they're clearly in bed with Volkswagen, while they're complaining about a whole bunch of things, and there's a very slow rollout, and hopefully Giga Berlin will open up and be allowed to manufacture vehicles for sale by the end of January. One doesn't know. I'm still banking on Texas producing the first cars for consumers. But anyway, even with this slow rollout, it's apparent that there's a huge groundswell of interest from the government, in addition to from the populace, in terms of transitioning to EVs. And again, what's really fascinating about all of this is that accelerated change, that S-curve that I and so many other people have been talking about. Tony Seba, very famously for years, has been talking about it. But that disruptive S-curve transition that happens, that's what's going on right now. And we're seeing it both from the bottom in terms of the populace and the top in terms of the government. And that's going to push that S-curve up even faster than it has been going before. So again, United States, pretty much of a laggard in terms of all this stuff, but even the United States is going to be pressed into service with all of this, because eventually it's not going to make sense to build internal combustion cars for the United States market, even if the United States market still bears it, if the whole rest of the world doesn't want it anymore. So anyway, I just wanted to pass along the content of this article and to discuss the fact that a politician, someone in a position of governmental authority, is advising his own population not to buy internal combustion engine cars anymore in a very industrialized, very auto-based country. I think that's incredible, and actually I'd love to know what you have to say about it in the comments. Do let me know. All right, I hope you enjoyed this episode and found it fun and thought-provoking and maybe emotion-provoking a little bit. Anyway, if you did, please do like it so other people can find it, and of course consider subscribing for more of this. As always, a huge shout out to my patrons on Patreon. In particular, this episode wouldn't exist without my patrons on Patreon, so thank you all so much. And of course, if you want to join the club, just check out the link in the description. And if you're interested in some awesome merch, check out the link in the description. We've got the Tesla Bot t-shirt, which is super popular these days. Don't mess with Tesla. Lots of other t-shirts, tumblers, mugs, etc. So check out the link in the description and help the channel out. And for those of you interested in investing, check out WeBull, an amazing platform for buying and selling stocks, and now cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, Dogecoin, and others. Open an account and get a free stock valued at up to $200, and fund your account and get another free stock valued at up to $2,300. Check out the link in the description and help the channel at the same time. Thank you. And finally, don't forget we are both Tesla and Amazon affiliates. If you look in the description, you can see how going shopping for a solar roof, a power wall, or anything on Amazon helps out the channel. In the meantime, I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.